Say top of the evening to you. I want to welcome you to another episode of the War Zone. Without you good people, I wouldn't have a show. So let me change some things real quick. Let me put this in a couple of groups. Let me go here, and now we will go here. Y'all bear with me. I'm trying to share it in some groups. Okay. Top of the evening to you. I want to welcome you to another episode of the War Zone. To tell you thank you for taking the time out to tune in. Without you good people, I would not have a show. And I really appreciate you taking the time out to tune in to me. I'm on fire right now. I look a little rough. I've been a little sick and starting to get better. Got to get out in the morning and go support some kids at Yes Prep Southwest. A bunch of girls, one feels that she's been sexually assaulted. So they're going to walk out, and of course the OG going to be there waiting on them. I want you to share this to your people. Push the share button. I want you to also share it to your groups. Parental discretion is advised. I just want you to know that I don't have the time or the patience to hold my tongue. I just left a community meeting in Cashmere at Cashmere High School, started at 6 o'clock, invited by my good friend Keith Downing. And they were supposed to have some people from HISD there. They had two Andreas from the bond department, and August Hamilton, who's the special assistant, basically the secretary to the superintendent, Millard House. They were there, along with the board member, Kathy Buford Daniels. I don't like going to community meetings because I don't do bullshit too well. I just don't do it very well. I can't fathom it. I can't digest it. None of that. We're just sat in this meeting, and I want to say one thing before I get started. I'm not in the business of making friends. I don't want to be you politicians' friends. I don't want to be these school administrators' friends, because I got to hold you accountable. And even if you were my friend, I would still hold you accountable. But I don't want to be your fucking friend. I want to be able to say what I want and do what I want. And that's what it is. And I don't know everything, but I know what I know. And school business is my know. That's what I do know. I know schools. We go here under the assumption that we're going to discuss Key Middle School, Fleming Middle School, which are targets to be closed. The trustee was invited. It wasn't her meeting. She was invited. And I don't give a damn if she gets mad at me, because I'm going to tell the truth. She was invited. So she was just like me. She was invited just like everybody else was. One, when we have these important meetings, there's not a lot of parent representation. And that's because the information is not getting down to the parents. And when you don't get information down to the people that really need to hear it, that tells me that you're trying to hide something from them. That's how I feel. So it was a nice crowd, but it should have been packed. The room should have been packed. That's how I feel. But anyway, we get into this meeting, and the trustee has the floor, and she's actually doing pretty good for a minute. And then, of course, people started asking questions. I'm trying to sit there because I really don't want to ask questions. I want to hear. But like I said in the beginning, I can't digest bullshit. I can't. And I don't care where it comes from. If it was Jesus standing in front of me and he was bullshitting me, I'm going to give him a nut check. That's how I feel. That's how I'm built. So we sitting there and, things are being said, and, people started asking questions, and I didn't feel the questions were being answered to the degree that they needed to be answered. To the degree that they needed to be answered. And I said what I said. I raised my hand, and I say, well, what I'm sick and tired of is these old Negro spirituals. I'm sick of us continuously talking about the same things over and over. For decades, we've been talking about the same things over and over. How black kids can't keep up in the classroom, or our schools are failing, and all of that. But I will say this here. It got to a point where I felt and I knew, because according to the trustee, this is a cashmere meeting. But cashmere people invited me. Yeah, I'm going to ask the tough questions. And I'll challenge any trustee that has the guts, which I know they don't. Come sit on this war zone and let's talk education. Since y'all are the experts in education, it's 9 of y'all. No, it ain't. It's 10 of us. I'm the trustee that don't sit on the Diaz. And there's not one trustee on the Diaz that has more knowledge on this school situation that we dealing with than Gary W. Monroe. And if I just stepped on your fucking toes, I don't care. I don't give a fuck if I just stepped on your toes. None of y'all have the knowledge that I have when it comes to this school thing. 14 years in the game. I ain't been dabbling here and there. I've been dabbling in schools. So let's talk about what's going on. There was a budgetary meeting today in HISD. Normally, I'll go to the first meeting, but a lot of times I won't go to the first meeting when they discuss the budget, because they just need to lay out some things first. And then once they lay them out, then I can go back and do the work that I need to do to be able to pick apart the bullshit. Well, the biggest takeaway from today's meeting is the allocations per students that schools get. $170 per child is what we're supposed to get. According to the administration, they want to cut that in half. So instead of us getting $170 per kid, they want to give us $85. Instead of $170, they want to give us $85. Now, let me see, because, in the black schools, we got to rob Peter to pay Paul. We don't have enough money as it is. So you want to take what we got and you want to cut it in half now. That'll give us basically nothing to work with. Hey, Terry, I tell you what, you want to come on here with me? You know education, dude. It is what it is. I need somebody to come on here, play devil's advocate, or we can just talk education. Let the people see how knowledgeable some of us really are when it comes to education. So if you want to come, inbox me your email address, and I'll send you a link if you want to come and sit on here and talk with me. So they want to talk about cutting in half the actual funding that we're going to get. And then we got to go sit in meetings and listen to y'all bullshit us. Listen to y'all make excuses. Well, she, according to the trustee, she asked for somebody from the administration. Hold on a second. My man, he just hit me. I'm finna send you a link right now. Hold on. Let me get my man on here, man. Let's go here. Let me see if I can do it this way quicker. Okay. Let's just send it like this. Hold on. I'm sending my guy an email real quick so I can get him on here. I'm sending my guy an email real quick. Okay. T. Andre. Hey. Okay, here we go. So we only get $170 per kid. They want to cut that in half. Okay, how does that work and what does that look like? Well, I'm in this meeting now. Got a lot of respect for Kathy Buford Daniels. A lot of respect for her. I've been on the front lines with her. That's why you ain't gonna never get a pass from me. Because I done been on the front lines with you. So I'm asking these tough questions and I'm not getting no answers. And I think the questions got a little tough because now it's like, oh, if you don't like what I say, then, I get you. You could be mad all you want. Well, you could be mad too, but I'm going to say what I got to say in these meetings. Hold on. Here come my guy. What's up, dude?
What's up, bro?
Say, man, you got a little more light in there?
Yeah,
let's see. Yeah, see if we can get you a little bit more lit up so the people can see you. We're going to work with what we got. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. You?
Man, I'm straight. Let me tell you what happened. I'm telling the people what happened. So I'm in this meeting, and I'm asking these tough-ass questions. And, one somebody asked, they started talking about how principals are removed, right? And what's the longevity of the principals in our school? Well, according to the trustees, there are several reasons principals get removed. If the kids don't perform, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so my question was, if that is the case, then last year we moved around about 52 to 54 principals.
Yeah.
Why would we move principals around that took schools from an F rating to an A or B rating? What's the reason for moving these people around? Now, I want y'all to keep y'all eyes on me, because when I asked the question and I asked it to the guy that was representing the administration, August Hamilton, this is how he looked at me. So I asked the question and this is how he looked at me. What's the problem? You can't answer the question. So all of a sudden, the trustee jumps in the middle of it. And I told her, I said, man, you protecting this man better than they protected JFK the day he got killed. So why is it that when we ask a question, you guys can't answer? So now I got my friend here, long time education, been teaching forever. We've been around each other for 30 years, worked together in the parks, helping kids, but he is in education. What the fuck is wrong with education and HISD?
There's a lot of things wrong with education and HISD. And from what I'm seeing, from being an educator, from what I'm seeing right now in our inner city schools, it's just a matter of just pushing numbers. It's a matter of money and pushing numbers. And you'll have good educators, you'll have good principals, but it's also them moving up. They want to get paid for what they do, and they don't stay in these positions very long. And we lose good people because they want to move up and they go do other jobs. And then we're left with what we got. Now,
is there a level, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
When we talk education, we talk about the parents. It starts at home, and the kids, they all fucked up. But is there a level of responsibility that should be put on the district to educate these children?
Okay, well, I'm in the classroom every day. I got 6 classes a day. I'm working with like 100 kids. The one thing I see is what we don't understand is what's going on with inner city kids. Our kids are living adult lives, not by their own choice, though. They're living adult lives on the streets. They're having to fend for themselves. I talked to a kid the other day. He said he divorced his parents when he was 13. He's been living with his godparents ever since. But the whole thing is, it's not just the parents. It's how we've already set up their education. Because I've talked to a couple of brand new teachers this year. And they're looking at, when they take the job, they're looking at kids, they think they're 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. But actually, mentally and physically, and they're adults. They're 19, 20, 21, 22. That's how they live on the street. And when they walk into school, they don't expect you to talk to them like they're 15, 16, 17, and 18. They expect you to talk to them like they're an adult, and then it becomes a problem.
Well, let me say this here, because this is what I've been saying for years. The reason they have so many disciplinary issues with those 17 and 18-year-old kids is because the way my father raised me, you don't become a man or a woman until you can financially take care of yourself. So some of these 18, 17, 18, 19-year-old kids are already taking care of themselves.
Some of these,
So they're
some of
not
these
gonna
kids,
allow, they're not gonna allow these people to handle them any kind of way.
some of these kids are, and I ran into a young lady the other day who came and talked to me and asked me for my help. She's actually the breadwinner for her house. Her mother's there, her grandmother's there, and she got a brother and a sister, and she's working a full-time job at a fast food restaurant, and she missed maybe 60 days of school. She would go a couple of days and she'd miss 5 or 6 because she's the breadwinner. But she didn't tell anybody that she needed any help, and the school district was basically about to kick her out. But yeah, they're living adult lives. They're breadwinners for their homes. Sometimes they're the only one that's bringing in some money, and their parents are not helping. We have people. We talk about our schools, and we say why our schools are messed up. But then when your parents don't come to PTA meetings, when your parents don't attend teacher parent conferences, when your parents don't return phone calls, because I've called parents, and parents know when they see the HISD number, they don't answer it. So what I do is I have the student call the parent on their phone number, and the parent picks up right away. But sometimes the parents don't help. Sometimes it's almost like the parents don't care, and the kids know that. So now these kids are living adult lives, and they're trying to get an education, and they're falling behind. COVID didn't help us at all.
None.
They're coming out of COVID, but even coming out of COVID, they don't know where they're supposed to be at. I have been, for this whole semester and last semester, I've been pushing SAT work and ACT work, trying to get them to understand that, hey, the next level, you need to at least have a 10,000 or a 1,000 or a 1,200 score on your SAT. If you plan
I want to tell the people something about you that a lot of them don't know. When I got ready to go back to college, I called you.
Yeah.
And asked you what's a good school that I could go to.
Yeah.
And you referred me to Central Texas College in Killeen.
Yes, I did.
And that's the school. And I took your word because I know you're not going to tell me the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And from there, I called you to say, man, what you say is a lot of reading. Yep. You're going to have to read a lot. You say, but if you take the time to do the work, you're going to get it done.
Yeah.
And because of good people like you, I'm inches away from getting a degree I should have got 40 years ago. You see what I'm saying? 40 years ago, I should have got it. But you the right person that talked to me. So I know when you're talking to the kids about it, these are the type of people, y'all, that our kids need to talk to. This guy grew up in Sunnyside, went to Worthing, went to the Navy. He got kids in the Navy, and we were blessed to actually coach his son, yep. In youth ball. He trusted me to be able to do that. So, and for y'all that's out there that need a hell of a football coach, you're looking at one. He's one of the best offensive and defensive minds you'll ever run across, but everybody know everything. So here's my thing to you. I really want to ask some tough questions because I know that you're going to give us honest answers.
Yeah, I'm giving you honest answers.
What the fuck wrong with these trustees, man? And they backbone. Why do you think that they can't step up to the plate and say what really needs to be said because they represent our communities, but when it's time for them to speak up,
it's the same thing I've been saying about city council members too in our area. Until you come and spend a week at the school and see exactly what's going on with the kids at the school, you can't tell what kind of help they need. It's easy for you to sit in the boardroom and say, okay, we're going to give you this X amount of dollars, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. I say, come spend a week at the school. Just come walk the hallways. Even if you don't come announced, because when they come to schools announced, they put on a great show. They do. It's like going on a tourist trip. Everything is clean. Everything is nice. They need to come there one day and just check in and be a substitute teacher. and just see what it's like to be at our schools for a week. Just take a week. You
I'm
ain't
gonna
need
be honest with you. I don't think we have a trustee. I'm gonna say maybe one.
Mm-hmm.
Myrna Gidry. I'm gonna go with Myrna.
Yeah.
That could survive our school for a week. I just don't see them being able to do it.
But that's the only way you're gonna find out what's really going on. Because like, again, when they come to the school and it's announced, everything is clean, everything is shiny, and it's like everything is fine. You're not gonna find out exactly where the skeletons are in the closet of these schools until you actually come there unannounced and no one knows who you are. And you can come and actually see it for yourself what goes on a daily basis. There's some schools in our district, man, they have 3 or 4 fights a day. 3 or 4 fights a day.
Easy day.
Yeah,
you got some have 9 or 10.
Yes. You know, and parents don't understand, why all the kids fighting. What are we doing? There are some schools that need more than one police officer, more than one HISD police officer at the school. They do.
Well, here's the thing. Do we have enough HISD police? Because if it look like the Negroes gonna show up to the board meeting, look like all the cops be at the board meeting, and we ain't never got enough on the school campuses.
I know a lot of good HISD police officers, and they'll tell you that they're stretched thin. They're doing duties in school, then they have to do duty at baseball and football and basketball and track games and soccer games, and at the end of the day, they burn out too. I can't talk about the numbers because I haven't looked at the numbers for the police department, but they'll tell you they're stretched pretty thin.
Well, here's a question. This is a tough question now. You say you can answer a tough question.
Oh yeah.
You've been through the case striplings.
Yeah.
You've been through the Rod Pages,
yeah.
the Abe Savagers, the Terry Greers,
yeah.
the Dr. Granita Lathams, and now Millard House.
Yeah.
On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, grade Millard House right now.
3.
You telling me from a scale to 1 to 10 that Millard House only scores a 3?
Yeah.
Only scores a 3.
Yeah.
Why?
Again, what schools have he walked through? What schools have he visited and actually taken the time to actually walk through and ask the students? I mean, it would be best if he would just go to a school and sit in the cafeteria and have an open house with the kids, and not show up there and get the dog and pony show. What school has he went to and actually had an open house with just the teachers and sit in the auditorium and have them talk about the pay that they're not getting, the hours that they're working, coming out of their pockets to buy supplies and stuff. Those kind of conversations aren't happening, and if you're going to call yourself a good leader, then you got to know what your people need and what's missing. He doesn't know what's missing. Sometimes I think he's just walking through it like he's sleepwalking through
it. That's a tough assessment, dude. That is a tough assessment. I agree with you that there is not enough interaction with the trustees as well as the administration to create a connection with the schools, with the administrations. I know when I ran for school board, and I think y'all were just ecstatic when I said it, I believe a first-year teacher should make no less than $70,000. That's what I believe in my heart, because that you do a lot of your own salary.
Yeah.
When you take that job, you're working 17 to 18 hours a day. When you do the breakdown on what they make per year, and then you don't divide that by the number of hours that they work per day per week, it averages out to maybe $10 an hour. Maybe $10 an hour, and that's not enough money.
The average teacher and educator really don't do this for the money. They don't. They do this for the love of the job, the love of the students. At the end of the day, you can come in the morning and your day could start out really crappy. But at the end of the day, if your kids have made you smile and a tear can run down your face, that what makes it all worth it right there.
You got to care about them on a different level.
Yeah.
Like when me and you were coaching, and people don't know this story, we took teams from your side of town and my side of town. You had a lot of Latino kids, Black, and I had mostly African-American kids. And we combined those kids. We ran the same systems, but we were on different sides of town. So the only time
we different parks.
In 2 different parks. So the only time we would see each other really was on Saturdays when we showed up at the park. Yeah. And I remember one time you called me. You had this I think it was a Pee-wee team.
Yeah.
You had a Pee-wee team that couldn't score.
Yeah.
No matter what you put in there, they just couldn't do it. They only averaged 6 points.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm gonna make this correlate to education, y'all. So you call me, you say, man, I don't know what to do. I say, well, okay, I'm gonna come out there. And I left, I let them run my practices, and I came to yours. And I think I came one time.
Yeah. And
I said, well, what we gonna do when I looked at what you were running? We're gonna take the big Latino halfback. We're gonna put him at fullback. We're gonna put Jeff Moten at halfback.
Yeah.
I said, I want the linemen just to open their splits a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is a team that never scored over 6 points.
Exactly.
Y'all never scored over 6 points in a game. We get out there that Saturday. We huddle up. We getting ready to play. I'm on the sideline with my man. First time we going to coach together. And we bring the boys up, and I say, I'm going to make y'all a deal. Now, I want y'all to visualize this. I had ponytails.
Yeah, it did.
I had ponytails. My hair was that long. I had ponytails. I made them a deal. We're going to run the same plays we normally run. But if you can score 42 points, I'll let you cut my hair in the middle of the field after the game. The first play of the game, you say, what you want to do? I say, add this motherfucker out. 52 pass, ABC fly. I brought the passing game to the park.
Yes, it did.
Add out. We got track stars. Add out. First play of the game, touchdown. So we coasted now. We ain't giving up no points. And we got to I think it was 37 points.
Yeah.
And we got one play left. We in the middle of the field. You say, man, you going to let them score? Because I'm calling the offense now. You say, you going to let them score? I did just like this. I grabbed my ponytails. The same way I started is how I'm going to finish. 52 pass, ABC fly. And they scored.
Scored again.
They scored again. So they met the point total. So now I got to honor it.
Yeah.
They didn't have no clippers. They had scissors. And just started cutting my hair in the middle of the field. I'm walking around the field looking like a goddamn Dalmatian.
Patch here.
But the reason that I let them score, because I knew they had the ability. And all they needed was a little help. And your ego didn't stop you from asking for help.
Nope.
And then once we did that, every week after that, they just kicked ass.
Because it wasn't about us. It wasn't about us. It was about the kids.
So let's make it correlate with education. If the superintendent does not know what he's doing, or if he needs help, you have to ask the right people.
Yeah.
And if they can bring it to the table, this is what we need to do, then you might start scoring and you might win the game. So this is what I'm saying. When we think about how can we deal with enrollment, I want to show y'all something. I want to share a screen with y'all. And now we're going to watch this. Let's try this here. I want y'all to watch this.
Pandemic forced many restaurants, stores, and businesses to close, but now it appears that schools could be the next victim.
HIC's enrollment has dropped dramatically since the pandemic hit. ABC 13 Investigates got the numbers, and our Nick Notario went one-on-one with district leaders to find out what's being done to enroll students.
HISD says this was already a problem before the pandemic hit. Right now, they're down by more than 20,000 students than before the pandemic, and they fear it's only going to get worse. They say it's going to lead to tough choices, but also it allows them to get creative.
The journey to public education starts here for some families.
So go to each station you've been assigned.
At a Southwest Houston campus, parents enroll their students into pre-K programs.
I thought it was very important to kind of get him in pre-K 3 to kind of start developing social skills and being around friends and making new friends.
An opportunity looking more normal than ever, with students not wearing masks and back in the classroom.
They were tired of the little laptops. They were ready to be in class.
Pre-K enrollment is one area HISD says is flourishing.
We went from 9,000 applicants last year. We're at a little bit over 12,000.
A pipeline the district says is badly needed because enrollment has dropped dramatically.
Enrollment is still 20,000 below where it was pre-pandemic. How on earth is it still 20,000 below where it was?
Yeah, and that's a lot of factors contributing to that, a lot of change.
HISD Executive Director of Innovation and Strategy, Michael Love, says the pandemic, declining birth rates, and charter schools are contributing to the decline.
The cost of living here in Houston is something we're conscious of. It's doubled really over the last 10 years. With a lot of families moving out of the Houston zone.
Our investigation revealed over the last 3 years, thousands of students are gone from Houston schools. Elementary and middle school enrollment is down 13% from before the pandemic. High school is down by 3%. In all, enrollment has dropped by 20,724 in 3 years. A decline with a huge price. The TEA says the district receives about $5,500 per student, which means HISD faces a $114 million loss in state funding.
We have the reality we have to make cuts. There are going to be cuts along the line as far as financially. It's just based on enrollment, and enrollment drives our funding.
Leaders say they may have to close campuses, a conversation coming soon. They're trying to boost enrollment, though. They've increased marketing, exploring new programs, including earlier and later school times, and reaching underserved families.
Purchase what we call an enrollment unit, which is a larger van. It's almost like a truck, which we've outfitted with 10 different iPads, which allows us to go to certain parts of the communities to help families enroll.
As the district hosts more pre-K enrollment events to boost its pipeline, it appears it may not be enough to avoid tough decisions caused by declining numbers.
Over the next 20 years, we may lose another 20, 30,000 students.
HISD, not the only district that's losing students. Just look at this map of local school districts, and you can see red meaning they're losing versus blue where they're gaining. You can see a lot of red, so it's not just HISD. But speaking of HISD, we do have a breakdown showing campuses. You can see these dots, a lot of red, meaning declining enrollment. We have all these maps and figures on our website, so if you want to see how your kids are doing, just head to abc13.com.
So I can say a lot about the thing with the enrollment. One, I think what really hurts HISD is that you have open enrollment at all these campuses. It used to be that It used to be that, if you lived in a certain neighborhood, you were zoned to that school. Now kids can go anywhere. And a lot of our kids, they're not going to school. They're not going to their home school. That's one. The other thing is,
let's tell the truth.
Yeah,
HISD is a garbage school district. When it used to be one of the best in the country, it's now one of the worst in the country. And nobody wants to be associated with failure. So therefore, you're not going to get the best teachers when you're not trying to pay them. You're not going to get the best teachers when you treat them like garbage on a daily basis. And then, when they don't conform to your stupid ideologies, you want to attack their certifications and get rid of them. So, I believe that's part of the reason that HISD is just poorly ran and nobody wants to come to this district anymore, whether it's students or kids.
well, I mean, there are good teachers in HISD. Don't get me wrong. There are some really good teachers in HISD, and they work really hard. But again, it's more or less like you said. It goes back to football. Winning solves everything. If you're at a winning school, students going to come there. If your school is doing something great or has great programs, parents going to want to bring your kids there. I always talk to other people and I say, maybe if we partnered with HTC or a junior or a community college and bring in some of those programs. I always say that one of the fields that are so great that they don't have to worry about jobs, because we talk about our kids having careers, not jobs, careers, and there are great programs at HCC in the medical field, to which I think our inner city schools should be taking advantage of. Phlebotomy, lab technicians, pharmacy technicians, the 2-year nursing program. All these programs will lead to our kids having actually great jobs. They can do those 2 years while they're in high school, like they're doing these dual credits, and come out with a job making $30,000-$40,000 a year and getting jobs in hospitals and in other places. But again, it's what we put in our schools as programming. You look at some of the schools and you say, okay, what magnet programs are you actually running for? And you talking about kids, what interests them? It's all right to say, okay, we're going to throw this program in your school and your kid's going to love it. But then you throw the program in the school and the kids don't even want to be part of it. There are tons of programs that we got running around in these inner city schools, and the kids don't even show up after school, don't want to be in the programs in the school, and then you actually, well, they don't, then it's the kids' problem, or they're not interested in it. Well, no, won't you find out what they're actually interested in, the things that they want to do, their career that they want to pursue, and then throw those programs into our schools.
Well, see, I think that they took the magnet programs and they tried to put them on steroids, and they tried to duplicate them. The thing that made us successful back in the day is each school magnet was different.
Yeah.
It was always different. Like you guys, I think at Worthing, y'all had printing, where you could learn how to do the t-shirts and different things. At Yates, we had the School of Communications. But on top of that, we all had auto mechanics. We all had wood shop and metal shop. We had drafting. We had home economics, which they now call culinary arts.
Yeah.
We all had this, but we had that magnet program that was totally different than everybody else. And I think that they got in bed with whoever and they decided that we don't want all these black schools. So the way that we cripple them is we start taking things away from them. We start taking stuff away from them. So they start taking the vocational programs, the cosmetologies, out of the black schools. Well, hold on a second, man. I got a lot of black women right now watching this program. Which one of y'all don't go get y'all fucking hair done? Which one of y'all don't go get some braids or some shit put in your head or whatever? Or just go get your natural hair done? But why would you take cosmetology out of a black school and then expect for them girls to still come there to get on a bus to go to Barber Jordan?
But we also took those programs out and replaced them with other programs that promise to give schools money. When you talk about they took wood shop and metal shop and everything else out, they brought in stuff like robotics, and they brought in stuff agriculture, and they brought in other programs that they got grants for, and we're going to give your school this amount of money if you let us bring in this program. So when those vocational programs didn't have funding or wasn't bringing in money behind them, they agreed to remove them and bring in programs that, hey, it's going to give us $1 million here, a couple of $100,000 there for these kids. And so that's basically
they sold the kids out for the promise of money.
Exactly.
They sold them out for the promise of money. And then once they sold them out and they saw that it wasn't working, they took the program and they took the money.
Yep.
So now you left us with nothing but minimum security prisons.
I mean, think about it. Look at the school, look at the inner city schools and what programs do they have right now? What are they running? Exactly. I mean, back in the day, you knew if it was a magnet school, you knew exactly what magnet program they had and why they had it. Now you got high schools that have all this, aquatic science, or agriculture or part of a communication program or part of a business program, or hospitality or something like that. But that's all because that program brought in a certain amount of money, and those programs, they might not even be interested to our kids. You just because you got money for them and you say, okay, this is going to be great, we're going to introduce it to our kids, that doesn't mean they're going to want to do it. I talk to kids every day. What I do, and I'm like, I can get you scholarships. All you got to do is come to class every day, come to all your classes every day, do your work, and work with me on your SAT stuff. And I guarantee you, I'll get you to the next level. And kids still say, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to go to college. I'd rather do this. I'd rather drive a truck, or I'd rather be in cosmetology, or I want to go to criminal justice. I want to go to a criminal justice school. How come we don't have a program for criminal justice? I showed a young lady the other day a 2-year program at HCC in criminal justice. I showed her the same one I showed you at Central Texas College online. And she's trying to enroll in that. How come we don't take advantage of those programs that's there?
Let me give you an example. They gave Yates an IB program, and all schools don't get IB programs. You got to be who you need to be. It's great that you gave it to us, but most IB programs, they have a pathway that starts in middle school.
Yeah.
They're doing IB, that type of curriculum and that type of rigor in middle school.
Yeah.
So if one of your middle schools is not doing IB, your high school IB program will never thrive.
No.
It will never thrive, because if they're an IB in middle school, they're taking AP courses. So by the time they get to high school, they may be 5-6 credits ahead. And this is why they can graduate early with the associate's degree, because once they get to high school, they're now taking college classes. But if you just running it at high school, they got to take the basic IB courses, and they can't get to the college classes to be able to graduate, early to get that associate's degree. So what they're giving us is basically paper programs with no funding, no teachers to run it. You see what I'm saying? But you expect the results because we're considered an IB school.
Exactly. And another thing that bothers me about what's going on in our school district is, and I'm going to ask you this question: how does the STAR test help our students?
It don't.
So,
when I talk to you about going back to school,
yeah,
and people at that college didn't ask me for no STAR test score.
Exactly. So my thing is, because a student asked me the other day, because she said she's so tired of the school pulling her out of class to be tested. She said, it seems like every other week I'm being tested on something. And I said, well, is any of that has to do with the ACT or the SAT? I said, I asked them, what do you need to get to the next level? Do you know what you need to get to the next level? Do you know your core GPA? Do you know what your SAT scores are? And most of our kids don't know this stuff, but that's what colleges are going to be asking for. Colleges are not going to ask you for your STAR test scores, but we're so caught up on STAR tests and those scores that we're not promoting what our kids actually need to go forward. And that's SAT, ACT, we're not, there are some schools that probably do that after school. But I try to get our kids to stay after school to do that kind of stuff, and it's almost impossible.
A lot of Black parents don't know that your child can start taking the SAT and the ACT in the 7th grade.
Yeah.
And those scores will stand until they graduate. So if they score 1,400 in the 7th grade, why would I rack my kid brain on the SAT the rest of his high school career? There's no need. Because he's taking it.
A lot of parents don't know it's free.
Exactly. So we're scrambling at the last minute to take the test.
If your kid scores low in the 9th grade on the SAT, he can keep taking it. The SAT is going to be given here again in March. your kid took it in the fall, they should be taking it again in the spring. They should take it every chance they get to improve on their score if they're a low score. But a lot of time, these kids are so over-tested, and it's not in the ACT or the SAT. They're so over-tested in other stuff that they don't want to take those tests. They're just going in ABC at the death so they can get out of there and get out of the testing, which hurts them and it hurts the school.
Well, one of my longtime listeners, my friend Becky Valadez-Franco, said HISD needs to promote more parent involvement. Parent involvement makes a big difference in a child's education. Now, the reason I put that up is because a lot of times parents go to the school and want to be involved, and the school turns their back on. They don't want them involved in the, they don't want parent involvement.
And what I see is sometimes it depends on how the parent come in and talk about what involvement they're talking about. Parents show up sometimes when it's the wrong thing. Like when the school sends a letter home that says we're having a PTA meeting or a PTO meeting, parents don't show up. When the school says we're having an open house and you got 800-900 students in your class in your school and only 100 parents show up, that's not parent involvement. When the teacher says I need to have a parent-teacher conference with you, and they call your house over and over and over again, and you don't return the call or don't return the letter, or they send a letter home with the student, and you have to ask the student 3, 4, 5 times, did you take the letter home? Yes. Did your parents sign it? No. Why didn't your parents sign the letter? They didn't feel like signing it. They didn't want to sign it. I couldn't get them to sign it. I hear this stuff all the time. These are Black parents. But then we cry about the fact that there's something wrong with it. Why is our school so low? Why are we not doing? Again, some schools are asking for parent involvement, but can't get parent involvement. Some schools probably got more parent involvement. But I'm gonna tell you, I'm at a school where I don't think I have a lot of parent involvement, because I've been to our PTA meeting. I've met with our PTA coordinator, and you got 800 and some kids in your school and only 50 parents show up.
Well, I tell you this here, I go to this community meeting tonight outside of my community, because I consider all communities my community.
Yeah.
And the way that I was treated, if it wouldn't be for good people picking up the phone and calling me as I was driving home, it would have been easy for me to say, fuck y'all. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
I'm being straight up with you, man, because I'm coming to help. I'm not coming to be a distraction.
Yeah.
But when you start asking those tough questions, when you seem to know more than they actually know, I think they get intimidated. And some of these parents that show up, honestly, they know about education.
Yeah.
Whether they're Black, white, they know. And when they walk in there and they start asking those tough questions, the person that has to answer those questions, they get intimidated. And they're not receptive to what you bring to the table.
Well, I understand parents' frustration and being an educator and a parent, but I look back at it this way too. It works both ways. Educators not doing what educators not being held accountable, because one, they can get away with not being held accountable because the parents aren't involved. That's one. Two, parents aren't involved even on the basic level with their kids. Because right now, I would challenge every parent right now to have their kid just pick up a newspaper or a magazine and read to them. Read to them.
They can't read.
An entire paragraph. I challenge every parent. Remember that 4th grade test you had where the teacher made you write the 12, 1 through 12 on one side and run through 12 across the top, and made you fill in all the multiplication blocks in between till you got to 12 times 12 was 144. I invite every parent to challenge their child. I'll actually send them the form. I challenge every parent to challenge their child to do that. I challenge every parent to have their child sign their name, not print their name, I'm talking about do a signature, and I guarantee you, they'll be totally surprised. And the things that I'm asking parents to I'm challenging them with is something that my parents taught me at home, not in school. I learned my timetables at home. I learned how to sign my name at home. I learned to read before I even went to school. So there's no reason why our kids should be in the 9th, 10th, and 11th and 12th grade reading on a fifth grade level, or can't sign their name, or can't do basic math. That's the parent problem there. But on the other side, the schools, some of the schools know this is happening. And remember, we talked about some of these schools are diploma mills. They're just collecting the money for attendance and making sure your baby graduates. It's simple as that.
Well, man, my issue with all of this, and I would accept your challenge if I could. These motherfucking kids can't read, man.
Yeah.
Say these kids can't fucking read, man.
But when did you learn to read?
You started reading in what, the second grade? First grade?
I was reading in the first grade. My mom read to me. She made me read the book back.
Let me put this comment up, because there's something me and you need to go into, because this was one of your specialties. Whitney CG says also some parents don't want to get their kids evaluated for services when they actually could help the kid. Well, hold on a second, because I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of these motherfucking kids ain't special ed. They got behavior issues.
Some of them need help. That's all.
They need their ass whooped.
Yeah.
They need their ass whooped, but they can't whoop their ass in school. So what they do, instead of trying to figure out how to deal with the behavioral side of the kid, they throw them in special ed.
Yeah. Yeah.
All these kids don't need to be evaluated.
Yeah.
We ain't gave birth, and excuse my French, and I don't care who gets mad, we ain't gave birth to a generation of retarded kids.
No, we didn't. But
no, we didn't.
But the first thing that happens, like, and I saw this with one of our star basketball players when I was at Chavez High School. He was the best basketball player on the campus, but somewhere in middle school or elementary school, he had gotten the label of being a behavioral problem kid. He didn't have a behavioral problem. He had an anger management problem, which he needed counseling on, because he was angry about his living condition outside of school. But because he had that label on him of having anger issues, he got stuck in behavioral class. And this kid was making straight A's outside the behavior classroom, because I started letting him go to other classes. And he was doing just like every other student was doing. He was doing the work, but he got labeled because of anger issue. And there have been other kids that happens to all the time. I really think that our schools, especially HISD, every inner city school needs to have a mental health counselor, a sexual abuse counselor, physical and mental abuse counselor, someone that these kids can go and talk to, because a lot of times they have these issues and they don't have anybody to talk to. And yes, they're afraid to talk to people too. And it's not even that they're afraid, they don't trust. They don't trust people enough to say, hey, I got this problem and this is going on and I need some help. And the parents might know they have these issues. Again, they won't report it, because if they report it, then now they're in trouble.
Let me show you how it worked. I had a nephew living with me, and he would go to school and he would cut up and all that shit there. And then they gonna tell me, well, we're thinking about putting him in special ed. No, you ain't gonna put him in special ed. I got him. So when he got home, I had a board that you could sit on the table.
Yeah.
And it didn't actually touch the table, so you could stick stuff in it. So it had triangles, it had square pegs, it had round pegs. Yeah. So I tell them, take the square peg and put it in the hole it go in. He take the square peg and try to put it in the round hole. So I ain't that motherfucking teacher. Don't play with me, dude. Don't play with me. I ain't the motherfucking teachers up there that's gonna play this retarded ass game with you. Put that goddamn square peg where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
And he put it in that motherfucking that square peg. Now I know you do ROTC. You're a military guy.
Yeah.
So he had to learn his ranks. Well, he in ROTC wouldn't learn his ranks, and the man told me, say, man, he got it. So we had what I call a Joe Jackson moment when he got home that day. Sit at this table, and we're gonna go over these ranks.
Yeah.
And every time you get one wrong, I'm gonna bust your ass. He had a week to get it. He didn't know none.
Yeah.
He didn't study it. He didn't know none. So it's not like he had a learning deficiency. He just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So we had that Joe Jackson moment for a whole week.
Yeah.
When they went to do the ranks, he got the highest fucking score out of the whole battalion.
But the difference in today's kids and our generation is that our parents was like this. I'm going to ask you to do something once. I'm going to show you how to do something once. You better do it right the next time you got to do it, or else I'm going to hit you in the head to the white meat show. Our parents was like that. Today's parents aren't like that. They're like, well, they don't know how to do it. I ain't showed them several times, so I'm just going to leave them alone. But then that's a cop-out for the kid because the kids already know. You're not going to punish me if I mess it up. You know, it's like, if you tell me to take out the trash and you tell me to put the trash can out, but you didn't tell me to put the trash in the trash can. I'm going to put the trash can out, but I don't have to put the trash in it. See what I'm saying? I had a young lady actually tell me one day, because I had her take a form home. I said, take these forms home and have your parents sign these forms. You fill them out and sign the form, or you can have the parents fill them out or whatever. And I said this in the class. At the end of the week, the forms came back. And she gave me back the forms. She said, Mr. Hayes, my parents signed the forms, but you didn't say that they had to fill all of it out. And when I looked at her forms, at the bottom of the forms, the parent had signed the form. It wasn't filled out, though.
Well, I'm going to tell you this from a parent perspective. Parents too motherfucking friendly with their kids, man.
Yep.
They too friendly with their kids. So, you know, when they come to school and they rowdy and they want to fight the teachers, that's because they're at home kicking their parents' asses.
But
so
they
just come to
what I said, they're adults outside the school. When they walk outside these school doors, they're 19, 20, 21, and 22. Look at how they dress when they come to school. Look at how they act when you see them on the street. That's the same mentality they bring into the school. And they will curse an adult out in a heartbeat and tell you, you're not going to disrespect me. You're not going to talk to me that way. You don't know me. This is, and we're not talking about juniors and seniors. We're talking about ninth graders with that mentality. And then you say, okay, we don't have good teachers, or we can't hang on to good teachers. No teacher wants to come to work when you got to deal with kids who sit in your class and play on their phones. And that's another thing. We got to do something about these phones, because, man, I'm fighting a war with TikTok every day. Every day. These kids play on their phones. They got games on their phones. They would rather sit in class and play on their phones and do any work.
Well, you know what's amazing? When I go into the schools for a community meeting, and I don't use their Wi-Fi. A lot of schools, especially where you work, my phone won't pick up.
Yeah.
It won't pick up. Why do you think it's so important that the district supply Wi-Fi to the kids during the school day?
You can't supply Wi-Fi to the teachers if you don't supply Wi-Fi to the kids. I mean, you got all these smart devices You know, you got clever boards that need Wi-Fi. The teachers got laptops. All the kids now, they don't carry books. They carry laptops. And everything, all their work is downloaded to them. So
Well, let me ask you a question about the laptops.
yeah.
And maybe you can explain this to us, because you know I'm not the smartest person on this video. Why the fuck we using all these goddamn laptops, but when you get to college, you gotta go straight to the bookstore?
Again, and I was in the school district when we used to hand out books, and schools was losing tens of thousands of dollars in books. You would issue books to kids, they would take them home and throw them under the bed, or they wouldn't bring them back. And then you had a point where you would tell kids, okay, if you don't bring your books back, you're not going to graduate, or you have to pay for them. You know, and then you had all these kids who weren't eligible to graduate because they didn't know what these books were. So to keep from losing tens of thousands of dollars in books every year, you know, it was easier, I think, to go to laptops.
So now the laptops ending up in the pawn shop.
So, yeah, but now they're telling kids now, you know, hey, if you don't bring the laptops back, you won't be able to graduate.
Okay, so, but my thing is if when they get to college, they got to go to the bookstore. You got to buy. I mean, just taking this semester alone, I spent $500 just on books.
And believe it or not, the kids don't know when they go to college, they got to buy books. I was explaining that the other day that, hey, you know, you pay for your books, you pay for your class, you know, so like here, like when you come to school and you decide to skip 5th and 6th period, you skip a couple of classes in college and you're going to be disenrolled, or either you're going to have to drop that class before the midterm because you're going to be failing. But either way, you ain't paid for it. Professors don't care if you don't come to class. They don't. They're going to get their money anyway, and kids don't understand that. There's part of that progression of moving forward into college, because I think a lot of our kids think, oh, going to college is just like I left middle school and going to high school. I'm going to be able to walk over to TSU or U of H and say, here I am.
Well, Sydney A on YouTube said in college you buy books because the professors wrote them. So it takes me back.
I've never, you know, and I've been to several different colleges. I've never bought a book that any of my professors wrote.
I actually have. During this course of this 4 years, I bought several that the professors actually, they wrote these books. But here's my thing. If we are screaming college career readiness, that means we are preparing them for college.
Yeah.
You're creating a false narrative. You're only going to use the laptop to do your work on.
Yeah.
I only use my laptop to do my work and write my papers.
Yeah.
But I'm in those books, whether they are, you know, the physical books. I love ebooks because they can talk, you know, so I don't have to sit there and read. I can put my headphones on and absorb a full chapter of a book just from listening.
The one
but you
thing
still have to buy the book. And
the
the
one
thing
thing
you
we've lost,
high
but
schools are crippling these kids by not getting them books, man.
The one thing we have lost, and I see it, because what I've done is I've taken my books and I've put them on my website. So when I give a reading assignment, you don't have to have the book in the classroom. The book is on the website. So, but the one thing we have lost is the fact that because they don't take books from the school, is that they don't do a lot of reading. They do a lot of YouTubing. They do a lot of looking stuff up and watching videos, but they don't do a lot of reading. That's for sure. And I hope I didn't lose you. I don't know where he went, but hopefully he'll be back.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, we lost a lot because the kids don't do a lot of reading. They don't. You know, and again, they don't have the book. But again, like I said, on my website, I put the book on there and I put the work on there so they can, and I give reading assignments every week. I make them write papers. We're not making them write enough. We're not making them read enough. We're not making them stand up. I make mine stand up in the classroom and give a presentation at least once every other week in front of the entire class. I make them get up there, say what their name is, and give their presentation. You know,
I think preparing them for college and high school, they're creating a false narrative, especially with the writing part. because, being out of school so long, when it was time for me to write that first college paper,
Yeah.
what the hell is APA format? I'm asking myself.
Yeah.
And then I had to YouTube it and figure it out. And okay, once I figured it out, okay, this is easy. So you can give me, like in one class I got right now, I got to write a 6-page, paper.
Yeah.
I can write that in less than an hour.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Now I know how to write it. I think if we're going to prepare them for college, then we need to teach them how to write these papers. And
it's that, and it's also the math, because now they have these apps on their phone. And like I said, the phone is, I think their cell phone is like one of the worst tools that they've gotten. Because remember back in the day, and I tell kids all the time, when I was growing, we had 5 TV stations. We had 2 telephones in my house. And I had to remember my mom, my dad's, my grandmother's, and my great aunts. All their phone numbers had to be in my head. I didn't have all that. But on their phones, they got apps now that they can just just scan over a problem, and it solves the problem for them. And the long writing of the problem, they can get all their math done. And now there are apps that even write papers for you. So
here's a word of advice to your kids, or because I know kids watch this show, that you can use that phone all you want. You can use Quizlet all you want when you get to college, until your ass got to take that proctored exam.
Yeah.
Where you got to scan that whole fucking room, and you can't open up these other windows, and you're gonna have to know this stuff.
And they tell you
see
to
what
turn
I'm saying?
your phone off, and you can't have your phone on. And
I think we need to start doing proctored exams in high school. If we're gonna prepare them for college, we got to show them the real. We got to show them the real. I just need them to understand your professor don't give a damn if you don't turn your assignment in.
Exactly, and that's how I tell mine.
You play that special ed shit all the way up to college, then that shit don't matter.
I don't go back, and in fact, this semester alone, I've already put in 17 grades for this semester alone, and we're only into like the second week of February. So my kids have done so much work. I put in 17 grades, but I don't go back. I just don't go backwards. If you're there that day, you turn in your work. If you don't turn in your work, you just get a 50 and we just move on. Because I ain't told you, I put the homework and all the assignments out on Sunday. We have academic days on Monday and Tuesday, physical fitness days on Wednesday and Thursday, and testing on Friday. We always moving forward. I'm preparing them for the next level, because when you get into college, you're going to walk into some professor's classroom. They're going to say, you got to read chapters 3, 4, 5, and 6, have a 400-word paper to turn in. And also we're going to have a lecture on Thursday. And it's only
when they turn that paper in, they need to clearly understand it needs to be APA format.
Exactly.
It needs to be double spaced. You need to write in Times Roman numeral. And 12 needs to be, how big your font can be.
Your font is, yeah.
And if you don't do it right, then you're not going to get the grade. You can write the perfect paper,
but are we teaching
margins? If your margins are wrong, you're going to lose points.
But are we teaching? Are we teaching writing and English comprehension?
Fuck no, not in HISD.
Again,
no. Let me say that differently. At certain schools,
okay.
At our low performing and Black schools, the focus is not on preparing them for college. The focus is on preparing them to pass the STAR test. So we spend the bulk of our days not teaching them the basic educational, tools that they need. We're teaching them how to pass this bullshit ass test that they don't even need to get into college.
One of the conversations I have with my students is, do you know the difference between your GPA, your general GPA, and your core GPA? And they don't know, because their core class, and I tell them your core classes are your English, your math, your social studies, and your science. That's all colleges are really interested in. They don't care if you made 100 in gym or art or dance or band or any of the other stuff. They want to know what you did in those 4 classes. And they want to know what you did in those 4 classes, the 4 years you were in high school. And that's what your GPA is going to be judged on. Not
And
all the
I
other
think,
stuff.
you know, the district does a lot of data. They have a lot of data.
Yeah.
I would love to see the data on the kids whose GPAs are from 3.5 on up.
Yeah.
On up. You know why I want to see that
Core
data? Because
GPA,
I want to know, you know why I want to see this data? Because
Why?
I want to know how many of those kids who are graduating with these high GPAs, when they take them TSIs, why they taking all them remedial courses when they get to college?
Are you
I want to
talking,
know that data.
are you talking about their core GPA or their overall GPA?
I'm talking about cores.
Okay. Because
You see-
their core GPA is always going to be different from their general GPA.
No, I get it. But what I'm saying is you got these kids that they're promoting out here that are passing, you know, graduating. Let's say they get a 4.0.
Yeah.
Oh, if he has a 4.0 GPA, he can go anywhere he want to go. But when he go take them goddamn TSIs and them scores come back horrible with that 4-point GPA,
Yeah.
now he got to take all these goddamn remedial courses. So did he actually learn anything, or did she learn anything in those 4 years in high school?
Well, I mean, and it goes back to the challenge I asked the parents to do, because I guarantee you there are kids out there right now who are passing algebra and geometry but can't do basic multiplication, don't know how to do decimals or fractions, and can't divide, but they're passing algebra and geometry. There are
Well, you
kids
know
out there right now that are passing English. There are kids out there that's passing English, but can't write you a whole paragraph. There are kids out there right now that's passing world history, but can't name you 14 of the 50 states.
Well, what did I tell you? Remember what I told you when you told me, you say you're going to have to take TSIs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck is the TSIs? And you told me. I say, I'm going to do good on everything except for math.
Yeah.
Because I don't need the math. In the world I live in and what I do for a living, I don't need no motherfucking math.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I mean, I can do the basics. I know the basics. That's all I need.
Yeah.
When I was an offshore catering manager, I ain't need no motherfucking algebra too.
Yeah.
I ain't need that shit. I needed to know how to measure this shit in the mixing cups.
Yeah.
That's all I need to know. But
when
I think
when you're at a D1 college, take U of H, for instance. If you sent your kid to U of H, most of the math you're going to see in their curriculum is going to be pre-calculus and calculus and statistics. If they got to take basic math or just algebra or geometry or trigonometry, it's going to be because they're math majors. But the other courses are going to ask them for calculus, pre-cal, and statistics. And I can't even get a chance to see that.
I'm taking a statistic class right now.
Yeah. And that's
I'm taking it right now.
And that's
and right now, my grade is an 89.4.
Yeah.
And I hate mathematics, but I got an 89.4 right now in statistics. And I ducked that shit as long as I could duck it.
Yeah.
And I took everything else. Now let me take this shit here because
and that's what most college students do too. If it's not a prerequisite and you get in your senior year and you know you got to knock out these pre's, so you go and take these last few prerequisites that you know you got to have for graduation, because you can't miss them, you know. But our kids, I spend a lot of time explaining to our kids what the next level going to look like. Like a lot of our kids don't understand, and parents don't know that a lot of these colleges in Texas have free tuition.
Yeah,
free tuition. But you got, and I tell them, I say, do you know you can go to these schools right here? I got them on my board in my room. I said, do you know that you can go to these schools for free with free tuition in the state of Texas? I said, and you want to go in the state of Texas because you don't want to pay for out of state tuition
fees. Yeah, you don't want them out of state fees.
You don't want those. I said, but here's the catch. You got to pass the SAT. You got to have a great GPA. And then I'm not talking about your general GPA. I'm talking about your core GPA. That's what they're going to look at. And then they're going to judge that by your standing in your class? Was you in the top 10%, the top 20%, the top 50%? And then based on those, on where your standing is and your GPA, there's a SAT cut that you got to make. And it's going to be anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200. And I mean, these schools are saying, hey, if your family makes less than $60,000, you can get free tuition here. If your family makes less than $40,000, you can get free tuition here. But you can get it, but you also got to meet these standards. And our kids don't know this. They're not being told this. And I'm telling my kids this every day. If you want to go to the next level, this is how you get there. You can't walk over to U of H and say, here I am, I graduated from Worthing. You can't walk over to TSU and say, here I am, I graduated from high school. You can't. You got to meet these standards. But they also got to know what these standards are. And I don't think we're telling them that.
I don't, and I agree with you. We're not telling them, we're not making it realistic. But let's go back to the Houston Independent School District.
All right.
Do you think, because I mean, right now people are trying to figure out how do we stop a state takeover? I'm telling people you can't. That's over with. Do you think, because now the state is in control of HISD on what they can do with them, do you think they should remove the board? Do you think they should remove the superintendent? Do you think they should take over the whole school district?
That's a tough question. One, I haven't been to like a school board meeting. I've watched them online, and I've watched a few of them online. I don't know enough about that to say that they should be removed. But if they do an investigation and they find out that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, if it's not working the way it's supposed to be working based on their job classification or their job description, I say, yeah, they should be removed. If I'm for what's best for the kids, and if the state taking over is going to be what's best for the kids, if it's going to get the school district back where it needs to be, then by all means. But I think the whole thing should be investigated. I think we should look at what they've done and what they have not done. I should look at these people. Have they gone to their schools and seen what their schools needed? Or did they just say, okay, I'm just going to do this? A lot of that plays into the factor of whether or not they should be removed or not.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. They've done the investigation.
Okay.
And at the time that they did it, it was determined that there was a lot of misappropriation of money that was done. Millions of dollars gone, just thrown away, pissed away.
I will say that, on the street, it's being said on the street right now that the school district is looking at a $200 million shortfall for next year.
But how? How does that happen?
And we're the fourth largest school district in the nation.
We're the largest in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
So how does that happen?
And we got to teach a shortfall.
Let me tell you how that happens. One, when you let your dumb ass go into recapture, where you wanted to pay the state this money, you messed yourself up. Mm-hmm. Because now, we got a $200 million deficit. How much did we have to send back to the state? Did we send back 200 million, 300 million? And then our money is taken and given to other school districts that build water parks with them. We should have never gone into recapture. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Then we have the misappropriation of money. Now, when I say that, everybody's going to assume he's talking about them stealing the money. No, I'm talking about a district administration that is not filtering money down to the schools to help with the loss of learning, to deal with what we need to deal with at the school levels, but yet they've created hundreds of positions for their friends in the district administration building. So there's misappropriation of money on that level. So that's why the guy tonight, I'm not telling him, we were walking out the building, y'all ain't got no problem cutting the amount of money we get per kid, but y'all ain't talking about cutting these people in that administrative office. Now, if the state comes in and takes over, the first thing they're gonna do, They're going to start at the top and they're going to streamline it. So all these unnecessary positions in the administration office, they're going to get rid of them.
Well, I mean, I look at it this way too. If the state takes over and the state already has their people in place to do what they do, then why do they need the board?
Do you think, and I mean, you watch the meetings.
Yeah.
1 to 10, grade the board. 1 to 10, 10 being the highest.
That's difficult. I give them a 5, and that's being generous, and that's just based on the answers that they put out. But to me, I don't think again, like I said, I don't think that they visited their own schools.
Now, I want you to take some of these questions I asked you about 1 to 10, and I want you to ask me.
Okay. What is your opinion on 1 to 10 on the superintendent?
A 2.
And the board?
The board, I would give them a 4.
That's just one step below. That's one step below what I gave them.
Exactly. And I'm going to tell you why. I'll start with the board.
Okay.
Because the board has to have a backbone. They are our employees.
Okay.
But yet they don't like to confer with their bosses very much. They don't like to communicate with us enough to clearly understand. We understand the dynamics of what's going on. So when they're like, we don't have enough parents at this meeting, I understand that. But you got a whole bunch of stakeholders here because your decisions affect our taxes. Your decisions affect our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
But
so
again,
I just don't think that
that goes back to what I said about the board and the board members. They want people to come to the board meetings, correct?
Yeah.
But they don't spend time at the schools to find out exactly what's going on to address those issues of each school. And I guarantee you, if the board members went to their schools and spent a week there and then came back to a board meeting, they would be like, well, damn, I didn't know this was going on.
Well, let me tell you why a lot of parents don't go to board meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nobody finna drive all the way over there to have 1 minute to fucking speak. Ain't nobody gonna drive over there on an average night when you only got 2 minutes to speak.
Yeah.
I just spoke at Houston Community College yesterday and I got 4 minutes.
Yeah.
When I spoke in Wharton, I got 3 minutes. Well, I actually got 5 minutes in Wharton. When I spoke in Bay City,
yeah,
I got 3 minutes.
Yeah.
At HISD, you get 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And they want to lie and say that's a TEA requirement. That's not a TEA requirement.
No, it's not.
Because if it was, then every school district in Texas would be letting people talk for 2 minutes. They don't want us to talk because they don't want to hear from us.
Is the HISD board going under the open board meeting rules, where everybody gets a chance to speak? Because I think if you look back at that, there should be something that says that how they limit or how what's the maximum on speaking terms, or who controls that. So I'm sure
I'm gonna call it the Monroe rules.
Okay.
Remember in the NBA they had the Jordan rules.
Yeah.
But in HISD, when it comes to speaking at board meetings, let's call it the Monroe rules.
Yeah.
When I first started going to board meetings, I could speak on every single agenda item for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
If it was 15 agenda items, I could speak on all of them for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
When they figured out I was going to do that, then they changed it.
Mm-hmm.
They said, well, you only get to speak for 5 minutes total. Okay, you give me 5 minutes to speak, I'm going to bust your ass.
So do you think they're afraid of confrontation?
They're afraid of hearing the truth. I think that it's no confrontation because they can't respond to you. You see what I'm saying? They cannot respond to you in a school board meeting. So there's no confrontation. I think that they are just afraid of hearing the truth. And they don't want people to come in there and be complaining and possibly complain about them.
Do you think they already know what the truth is?
Yeah, they know what the fucking truth is. They
So-
sit. Let me tell you what they do. Let me
so
tell you how this.
So again, they know what the truth is. They don't want you to tell them what the truth is,
Exactly.
but they're not afraid of confrontation.
No, they gangsters. You catch them at the right setting. Oh, they gangsters. They won't talk like they got it on their fucking mind. But then when you get in closed session for y'all school board reps, whether you HISD or any other school district, when you get in closed session, there's a group of board members that you are afraid of in closed session. And you won't open your fucking mouth. You'll say a little bit, but you don't say enough.
But you know, there's always the meeting before the meeting and the meeting after the meeting. And the people who run the meeting before the meeting and after the meeting are the ones that don't say that much in the meeting, but they control what happens in that meeting. And I think that's what's happening to the board.
I think some of them in an open board meeting, they ask a bunch of dumbass questions that don't need to be asked. Then we got to hear all these motherfucking stories. I don't want to hear about your personal life. I don't want to hear none of that shit.
But again, it goes back to what I said. You're hearing all these crazy stories because, one, they haven't taken the time to go to the schools and find out what the actual problem is. So when they come to the meeting, what else are they going to talk about? Little Johnny, my little Johnny, guess what he did today in school? Yeah. Oh, my dog learned a new trick. Yeah. You're going to hear those type of stories because, hey, they didn't go to the school. They didn't go to the school where the school had 14 fights that week and find out why they're having fights or why it's leaking in the school and it's a brand new school, or why you got parents there every day and their kids can't get enrolled on time, or why they don't get books, or why my daughter can't get a laptop. You know, they don't know. So
well, you know what irks me the most, and I just want you to listen to me. I'm sitting in a board meeting this month in HISD, and board meeting hadn't started, and out walks the former school board president from last year, Judith Cruz. So I'm sitting there and I'm talking to somebody, and she ear hustling. So since you ear hustling, I'm gonna make sure you can hear what I say. I say she's a prime example of what's wrong. She wants to sit on that Diaz and she wants to make decisions on schools that she's never even set her feet in. She wants to tell you what's best for Yates and Worthing and Sterling, when in all actuality, she's never set foot in these fucking schools. So she listening and she looking at me like, and I'm looking at her like, what the fuck I'm saying wrong? School board members are territorial.
Yeah.
If you're in District 9, then nobody from another district should come to your school. Bullshit. You got to make decisions on all of them.
Yeah.
So that means you need to visit every single one of them. And if I was a school board representative, I'm not telling you I'm coming. I got a card. I can get in that motherfucker. I'm just going to pop up in that bitch and start walking around. I ain't going to say nothing. I just want to observe.
It goes back to that old saying, though, I said too, about football. Winning solves everything. And if I was a school board superintendent and I'm not winning in my school district, I might pop over to another school district and spend the day over there and ask them, well, how are you guys winning in your school district? Because your school district is winning, you know. So if you winning, if they winning over there, I'm gonna go over there and try to find out what they're doing and bring it back to my school district and say, hey, we need to be doing that kind of stuff. But again, it goes back to not walking around in your own schools.
Let's make this a political situation real quick.
Okay.
In Democratic neighborhoods, a lot of our schools are performing poorly.
Yeah.
In Republican neighborhoods, they're performing on higher levels.
Yeah.
And some of them are some of the best schools in the country.
Yeah.
In Republican neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So from a school board representative standpoint, and we know this is nonpartisan, it should be.
Yeah.
Who's doing a better job with education in the state of Texas, Republicans or Democrats?
Probably Republicans. But again, we had this conversation too about political people. I ain't gonna say any names, but just political people.
I will.
They're and I asked someone this in my old neighborhood because I lived in Sunnyside, Blue Ridge, South Park. And then people go, well, how come our neighborhoods look like this and their neighborhoods look like that? I'm like, well, they got deed restrictions. There are certain things that you can't do in their neighborhoods that they let you do in yours. And they're like, well, how come our politicians aren't doing this and that, and their politicians are? I'm like, well, because you keep voting for the same people, and they come out and only on election day, and they shake your baby, kiss your baby, shake your hand, tell you they're gonna do all these things, and then after the election, you never see them again. I said that don't happen in those neighborhoods, the other neighborhoods. They hold them accountable. You have to hold those politicians accountable. So when you look at school districts that got great schools and it got a lot of programs and their kids flourishing and they a high percentage of their kids are going to college and a high percentage of your kids aren't. You have to look at, okay, what are they doing that we're not doing? What are their politicians doing that we're not doing? What are their parents doing that we're not doing? And a lot of it is accountability. It's just accountability. We have to start holding people accountable for when they say they're going to do something. If politicians are going to say, I'm going to get you better schools, cleaner streets, street lights, sidewalks in your neighborhood, you have to hold them accountable for that. If not, they're not going to get it. If you just let them say, okay, they're going to do it, but then they never come through, they're going to continue to not come through. It's the same thing with the schools. They can keep telling you, oh, yeah, we're going to get you this, 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 and this. And then, bam, your funding's gone. And then now you're fighting for your funding again. But are you holding those people accountable? There's no reason why, like at Yates, there's no reason why when Yates was built, they were supposed to get a brand new football field, brand new lights, brand new scoreboard. I'm sure all that was in the budget at one point. Just like it was at Worthing. Brand new football field, brand new lights, brand new scoreboard, and then all of a sudden, bam, the funding was gone. But where did it go? And then how come we didn't hold those people accountable that said we were supposed to get it, but we didn't?
Should we vote for a new school bond?
Why? What does that get us?
Because they say they're gonna build new schools.
Why? We got a shortfall of $200 million. I rode by Kip, that's right down the street, because on Cullen, there's a Kip right down the street from us, and I'm like, that school is almost killing Worthing. Because the kids that zone Worthing are probably going to that school, and then we got an early college across the freeway behind HCC that's taking kids. If we got all these chips being built and all these other schools being built, then why do we need a bond to build more schools? I say fix the ones that we already got.
Exactly. Well, look here. This is what they're gonna say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the building is old and blah, 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 and well, hold on a second. 97 years ago, they built a school on Elgin named Jackie A. Senior High School.
Yeah.
They turned it into Ryan Middle School.
Mm-hmm.
It's still the same building.
Mm-hmm.
All crusted up, fucked up, everything.
Mm-hmm.
But when the black kids was in it, they couldn't learn shit. So they kick them out. They bust in the white and the Asians, put in every piece of technology that you can name, and now it's one of the top middle schools in the country.
Yeah. That's sort of like Vanguard, where Old Jones used to be.
Exactly.
That's one of the top schools in HISD.
And for y'all that don't know, he's talking about Carnegie Vanguard, which was inside of Jesse H. Jones High School. And they started busting in these white folk. And the white folks said, we don't want our kids to go to this school. They didn't stop until they built them a brand new goddamn school.
Yep.
But yet, you left old Jones over there. You kick all the kids out, turn it into a swing space where you can bring kids when they build in other schools. We'll put them over here while we building their schools.
Yep.
You killed Jones because you took out the school that actually had Jones thriving. You see what I'm saying? That's why I'm telling people, I mean, if you understand the game of what they're doing, it's shit not rocket science what they doing, man.
No.
It's not fucking rocket science what they doing. And the bottom line, and I can say this here because I don't want you to say it, they don't want to educate niggas. And you got Steven from Django that's playing the role of the superintendent right now that definitely don't want to educate niggas.
I wouldn't say they don't want to educate us. I would say that the system, the way the system is running right now, it's not in our favor. That's what I would say.
It ain't never been in our favor.
True.
And the worst thing we did was back when we had our own shit. We wanted to be a part of their shit.
True, but now we ain't got to the point now is if we segregate ourselves away from them, we're cutting ourselves off from funding that we actually need. If we take a step back and go back and say, okay, we just want to be us, we'll do this, and it'll just be us and let us do us, then they'll find a way to make sure we don't get certain funding.
Well, the thing is that we're in a bad situation. We're in a very bad situation. And I don't think it's going to get any better with the people that we have, making the decisions.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of like you. The only way we can fix this, we got to get some new decision makers.
Exactly.
Look at, everybody, a lot of people are making comments and, texting me. Man, y'all having a hell of a conversation. That's because you got two people that are passionate about education. They clearly understand the dynamics of how it needs to be ran.
I love the kids. I love my community. I love the school. I talk to my kids every day. I stay after school with them. I help them with their math. I help them with their English. I help them with their history. I spend time with them. I've talked to parents. I've talked to parents for hours about their education. And I told them, I don't want their kids to have to go the road I went, because I could have played football in college, but I'm the oldest of 9. My parents couldn't afford to send me to college the way I need to go to college. So I ended up being in the military, and I stayed there for years. And I got my education through the military. But the whole thing with that is I see that there are other avenues for our kids. There are scholarships galore out there for our kids. They don't know about them. They're not being educated that they're there. And then we're not educating them on how to meet the standard to even get those scholarships. There's tons of money out there. There's tons of scholarships out there for them where they don't even have to, like right now, I'm trying to give away a ROTC scholarship to where they don't have to pay for room and board. They'll give them a stipend every semester, $2,500 every semester for books. And they're going to pay them $450 every month for food. I'm talking about tax-free. You ain't got to pay it back. All they got to do is right now go to school, make good grades. There are all kinds of avenues out there for them to go to school, get a good education, and not have to work paycheck to paycheck, have a career. We're not talking about a job, we're talking about a career.
I think we need to teach more entrepreneurship. We need to teach more entrepreneurship in high school. And for example, and it's something that I've been thinking about, like learning how to cut the grass, how to edge the grass, how to hem the hedges.
Yeah.
Can we teach this as an entrepreneurship? Yeah, because think about it. These Latinos come here from Mexico, and the first thing they buy, they don't go buy no house or no car, they go buy a lawnmower.
Yeah. But I understand too, when you come from a country where you didn't get a lot of education, you go back to the basics of what you know how to do and you do well. And then you come here and you do it well. And then you come to a country where a lot of what you do well, people don't like to do. Like a lot of us don't want to stand out there in that hot sun when it's the summertime and it's 104 degrees and you got to cut 5, 6, 7, 8 yards to make a good living. We don't want to go out there and pick vegetables. We don't want to go out there and wash cars. A lot of us won't do that. But when you come from a country that where your education stopped in the 5th or 6th grade and you had to escape poverty and you come here and you got opportunity, but the one thing you do know is how to work hard. They come here and they work hard and they do the one thing they know how to do. They cut grass, they pick vegetables, they do everything that everybody else said they won't do. And they do it well. You can't knock them. You can't knock them for their hustle.
No, you can't.
Hustle. I don't. Because they'll do the job that we won't do. And I had many a black person tell me, I ain't doing that. If I can't make $20, $25, $30 an hour, I ain't doing it. I ain't heard that. I have actually heard that from people. But you don't have $20, $30, or $40 an hour worth of education. When you go back,
exactly.
When you say you want to go back to entrepreneurship, there are a lot of trade schools, even at HCC, that can teach you entrepreneurship. But the one thing we don't talk about is how do you do a business plan? How do you get a business loan? How do you do a DBA? What's an LLC? What's a nonprofit? What's the difference between a 501c and a 501c6? We don't teach that. And those things are just the beginning of being an entrepreneur. Because if your paperwork ain't right, you're going to get robbed blind and lose all your money, be bankrupt, and be starting all over again.
So how do we fix education in HISD? What's the first thing we need to do?
We need to find out what works for our kids. What helps our kids move forward. All these programs that we throwing in these schools, they're not interested. Some of them they're not interested in. So what helps them? What works for them? What would they like to do? Even if you just take a blind survey and say, what would you like to see in your school? I guarantee you they'll come up with something that you can put together and it'll be better than what you got. Again, I'd love to see one of our inner city schools have HCC's nursing, 2-year nursing program. Could you imagine what that would, when you graduate from high school, you got your associate's degree in nursing? Dude, that's $40,000 a year. For a 17 and 18-year-old coming out of high school, that's a lot of money and a good job. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, I would like them to go through the associate's degree of business at HCC or Sanjack or whatever, and then say, start my business. But now I went through a dual credit program through a junior college or a community college, to which I now know how to write my business plan. I now know how to file my paperwork.
You know, another thing, we got to stop creating the mindset for our kids that they're victims. We have to stop that. And I don't need you to remind me that I'm poor.
And we have to stop telling them that okay, I hate this term, not everybody is college material. If my parents had told me and you that, would we have went to college?
No.
Everybody is college material until they say, I don't want to go to college anymore. But don't tell your kids you're not college material. Let them make that decision for themselves. And we got to stop telling them that you poor.
Yeah, you're not a victim.
I know what poor is, and I know what a victim is. I tell you what, go spend 2 months in Haiti and then tell me you poor.
I'm just sick of them spinning the narrative. Whenever we having these conversations, you know, they come from single parent households. I did too.
Yeah.
I came from a single parent household, you know, at least 75% of my life.
Me too.
You know, it is what it is. But to constantly drum in their head, oh, they're poor. The reason they're not succeeding in school is because they're poor. No, that ain't the truth. 98% of the time. It's some other shit that ain't being done.
Yeah.
It's other shit that ain't being done. So we got to change the mindsets of these kids. You know, when I walk into certain classrooms, I always greet them. You know, you hear this word, good morning, scholars.
Yeah.
I hate that fucking word. I walk in the classroom, good morning, young CEOs. Put it in your mind now.
Yeah.
Own your own shit. Because you can't get wealthy making somebody else rich.
Exactly. But
it's not going to happen.
But another thing is you're asking those who don't know to teach those that do, that need to know. You're asking parents that don't know to educate at home kids that don't know. And then when they come to school, they don't trust teachers enough to say, okay, I'm going to listen. And that's what's happening a lot of times. And again, if schools are being used as forms of disciplinary, kids come to school and get more discipline than they do at home. You know, one kid told me he goes home, his parents watch him walk in the door, and that's it. They might say hello, they don't cook, they don't do anything. So he comes to school. This is where he eats and where he learns everything. Again, the kid told me, I divorced my parents at 13. He said, I ain't looked back since. I said, well, where are you staying at? Oh, I live with my godparents. I said, well, how long you been living with your godparents? Since I was 13. Because he said, my parents said, they can't help me. He said, they don't know nothing. So
he's identified a major problem.
Yeah. But he's just one of many, you know. And then you got some parents who are still acting like they're in their teens, in their early 20s, because they didn't have no life when they were at that age. So they still acting like they're that age.
So basically what he's saying in ghetto terminology, some of y'all thotting at 50.
Yeah.
Some of y'all pussy popping at 45.
Yep.
And you wonder why your daughter doing the things she doing.
Yep. I mean, when your kid comes to school in full lashes, orange, green, purple, pink hair, house shoes, pajamas, low cut tops, and you know what the school code, the school dress code is. When your kids come to school dressed like that, and then you get called by the principal to come bring your kids some clothes, and you go, I ain't coming up there. So now we got to send your kid home. What does that say? You know, I see these kids every day, these ninth graders with more makeup on, and I see most grown women when you go to the club.
So here's my thing. When Granita Latham was the interim superintendent for those 3 years, I remember this lady used to walk these schools religiously. She knew kids by name.
Yeah.
She knew them by their names. She knew she could go in. I mean, if she stopped by Yates, she knew tons of kids by their first names.
Yeah.
She was familiar with her kids.
Yeah.
Millard House needs to take a page out of her book.
And I said that. I said Millard House needs to sit down and go to his schools and just do an open house. Or
you know what his biggest
town hall. We call it a town hall. He needs to go there, and he needs to do it with his teachers too. He needs, like, at some point when they got these teacher off days or these teacher work days, pick a school and go there and just have a town hall and talk to them about their everyday thing. Because again,
you know what one of his biggest problems is?
What's that?
You know what one of Millard's biggest problems is?
What's that?
He a wiggle.
What he says he's a wigger.
He a wiggle. He a black man. Well, he's a white man masquerading in black skin. He a wiggle.
Okay.
And he can't connect with the African American community because he really done forgot where he came from. He's forgotten where he came from. To hear him say he used to be a barber, well, that's an admirable profession. Everybody's not going to grow up and be a superintendent. I think we'll have more barbers as young Black people than we'll ever have young Black superintendents. So if that's the case, then why don't you put barber college and cosmetology in the Black schools? I just, bottom line, it's not really about cosmetology. It's about putting the programs in the schools that the kids want.
That's what I said.
That's all it boils down to.
Again, you need to ask them what programs do they think works for them. You know, one thing I asked about the kids in ROTC, and the one thing they said, I don't want to be in ROTC because I think that uniform is ugly. I said, but if we gave you this uniform, would you be in ROTC? Oh, yeah. If you gave me the camouflage uniforms, I'd wear that all day long. But I don't want to wear that other uniform. The other uniform is ugly. At some point, you got to meet them halfway. If you want them to be part of something, you got to figure out what works for them.
See, a lot of kids shy away from ROTC. See, when I talk to kids, I talk numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't want to take ROTC, right? Well, no. Well, do you have a clue that if you took ROTC and then you decide to go in the military, you go in 2 pay grades high?
Yeah.
What you mean, Mr. Monroe? Well, that means if they were only going, if you go in as a private, you could be a private, but you're making 2 pay grades higher than a private.
What we would call, you go in, if you don't take ROTC, you go in as an E1.
As an E1.
But if you go in and you took ROTC and you completed at least a year, you can go in as an E2 or an E3. But here's another thing that people don't know about ROTC and the military. A lot of people don't know, you join the military in the state of Texas and you complete just your 4 years and get out, you got 120 college credits paid for under what we call the Hazelwood Act. I mean,
that's a 4-year degree.
Exactly. But a lot of people don't know that. 4 years of college. And now it used to be you could only get those 4 years. Now they'll pay you while you going to school.
You can't beat that.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't know that. And then ROTC is not about joining the military. ROTC is really about you trying to get that ROTC scholarship to go to college.
But they're not treating ROTC right at the Black schools. They're not funding ROTC the way they're not funding it at Worthing like they're funding it at Bel Air.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad that they want this program, and it's a valuable and great program to have in an African American school, but at the same time, they're not funding it right.
I mean, ROTC is about actually going to college. ROTC has archery. ROTC has drones. ROTC has robotics. ROTC has cyber patriotism. ROTC has all these programs that no one knows about that you can do. And ROTC is track. ROTC is everything except military. They'll tell you, we don't want you to go in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. We want you to go to college. But again, when people talk about ROTC, the first thing they say is, oh, they're going to send my baby to war.
Well, you know what? If I was a kid, I would probably take, if I had it at my school, I would take ROTC and culinary arts.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to learn how to cook. And when I go into the military, I want to be a cook.
But the whole thing is, most schools don't have culinary arts.
Exactly. They don't have them at the Black schools. They won't put them at the Black schools for whatever the reason.
No.
They will not put culinary arts at these Black schools. I went over to Northside.
Yeah.
And they had culinary arts. I went for a meeting one morning. HISD had a meeting. Mm-hmm. And the kids prepared the breakfast because they were in culinary arts.
Yeah.
So I started talking to the culinary arts teacher. And at that time, Airmark Offshore was a partner. They were over food service for HISD.
Yeah.
And I had just left them, and I say, well, do you know about the offshore catering opportunities that your kids could have with Airmark? And she was like, no. I say, your kids could come out this program and go work on a drilling rig. As long as they know how to fry an egg or a pork chop, they could make $1,500–1,600 a week.
Yeah.
And she was like, I didn't know that. They're not promoting the things that they could promote.
But
like
again,
these schools that got pools, they could do an after-school enrichment program where they bring in a diving company.
But again,
and they teach them how to dive.
Again, it goes back to what I said about the programs that they took out and the programs they put in. The programs that they put back in our schools bring in a certain amount of money. They'll tell them, okay, you put this program in your school, we'll give you this certain amount of money. Culinary arts is not making them money. Cosmetology is not making them money. Wood shop is not making them money. Auto mechanics is not making them money. Why? Because they have not partnered those programs with the right sponsor that's going to give them the money to bring that program back to their school. You know, if you partner your auto mechanics with GM or Ford Motor Company or one of these mechanic companies that help you build, you know, motors and learn auto mechanic stuff, the stuff that they're learning today, yeah, then that company will give you a certain X amount of dollars so they can come in your school with instructors to help your teachers teach them how to do it. They'll pay you because now they say, okay, I'm going to get those students when they graduate, they're going to come and work for us, or they're going to be part of us, you know. But if you don't have those type of sponsors to come in with those programs, you're not interested in them. It's about money.
Our kids can be whatever they choose to be. And this is what I think, and I want your honest assessment.
Yeah.
That at the present moment, I believe in my heart, God has told me, that our kids can get a better education in the state penal system than they can get in the educational components that are being ran around the state of Texas in high school.
I don't know. I don't know because I've never been in prison, and I don't know too much about the prison system. I try to stay away from that part of the world as
well.
Much
You know,
as
you can't get a parole date unless you got a GED.
Yeah, but you know, I do think that our school systems, and I think HISD needs to take a step back and really look at what our kids need, where our kids need to be. And also, again, that town hall that they should have at some of these inner city schools and the town hall they should have with some of these teachers need to be had. You know, teachers are saying I'm overworked and underfunded. You know, programs, you giving me this stuff, but you won't give me that. There are teachers out there who spend thousands of dollars out of their own pocket just to buy stuff for their classroom, you know, and how they're going to get reimbursed for those kind of things. So those conversations need to be had, and they need to be had soon, or else, like you said, the state will take over the school district and then they'll do away with the board and the superintendent. And then you'll have a whole nother bunch of problems because are those state officials going to come and talk to the schools?
Hell no.
I mean, if your school board ain't talking to your school and your superintendent's not talking to your schools, why do you think that when the state take over, they're going to come in and individually talk to all the schools and find out what you need? What they're going to do, they're going to give you a mandate of what you need to be doing, how you need to be doing it. And if you don't do it, then they're going to start closing schools down.
Well, I think that your idea of having this conversation is a great idea. But I also think that it needs to be done on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Because you don't put a time limit on a serious conversation.
Oh no, I never said it had to happen during a school week, a week or during a school day.
No, I just think it needs to be on a Saturday because you're gonna have to have this conversation.
Yeah, and it ain't gonna be a 1 hour conversation.
Exactly.
It's going to start, and you gotta give a good. I would say start on a Saturday at like a 10 o'clock, and look forward to going to 4.
Exactly. That's how it gotta be.
And bring lunch with you when you come to have the conversation. Don't make it where you're just gonna walk in and walk out. No, make sure you cater it because you got the money to cater it.
Oh,
You know,
plenty of money.
the
Plenty,
board
plenty
got
of
the
money.
money to cater it. The superintendent got money to cater it. Whether you just buying some donuts and some coffee and some chocolate milk, I don't care. But if you want people to come, you got to make it enticing enough for them to come out and have this conversation that you really need to have.
Well, I think that they should feed them, because if you watch the board meetings, when the board members get up and they go to the back, that's because they're going back there and they're eating.
Yeah.
They're eating. So
Yeah.
if they got to sit in there for 3-4 hours and they got to eat, why can't we have a conversation and you feed us too?
Yeah.
It's just
should be like our coach, our old coaches meetings used to be, when all the coaches used to get together. You come there in the morning, you have a morning session, then you break for lunch. Then you come back after you break for lunch, and you come back for the afternoon session. That's how it should be with the parents and the teachers.
But here's a question. Let's go to athletics.
Yeah.
HISD athletics is just totally messed up at this point.
Yeah, I was a little concerned about athletics this year, especially with the helmet situation that went on.
Explain to them what you mean by that.
I mean, at the beginning of the season, we didn't know if we were going to have enough helmets to even play a football game, because some of our helmets didn't come back because they weren't certified.
But that was at the black schools. Come on, man, because West Side, Lamar, Bel Air, they had all their stuff, but the black schools didn't have theirs.
The 6A schools had most of their stuff, yes. The 4A schools and some of the 5A schools didn't have their stuff because they have to turn their stuff in every year to the district. And then the district takes that stuff and gets it recertified, because everything belongs to the district. Say, for instance, if me and you got together and said Yates needed 40 helmets, right? And we went out and we talked to Rydell and we got the exact helmets we wanted, and we paid X amount of dollars for each helmet, right? As soon as that helmet hits your campus, it doesn't belong to the school. It belongs to the school district. So when they get all the helmets, they send all the helmets away to get certified. If those helmets don't get certified, or some of them are damaged, or they need to be replaced, it's up to the district to get them back. But you also have to remember that the same companies that deal with us on the high school level also have to deal with the NFL, the XFL, the USFL, Canadian football, and all the colleges. And when they had to replace all their helmets, who do you think went first?
Exactly. Keep going.
So once they replaced all their helmets, we had to wait in line to get all our helmets back. And at the beginning of the school year, we didn't have it was close. We ended up getting our helmets, but it was close because it looked like we were going to either be sharing helmets. You come off the defense and you give your helmet to the offensive guy. But they did a good job of getting it to him. But it was kind of scary there. It was really scary at first.
Oh.
So,
well, man, what I'm not gonna do, I'm not gonna hold you all night, man. I think we had a great conversation, and we need to do this more often.
Yeah, let me know. I'm always willing to come on and talk to you about it and chop it up. You know that.
Yeah. So y'all heard some good information tonight. And if I stepped on a couple of y'all toes, whether you board members or administration, I don't give a fuck. Period. Don't give a fuck.
Haven't changed in years.
Ain't gonna change. Till tomorrow night. It's the war zone. I'm the 5-star general.